Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Community Connections with Ryan Sauers. I'm super excited to have Scott Miller. He's very accomplished, but right now the Executive Vice President of Thought Leadership with the Covey Company. Scott, my friend, how are you doing?
Ryan, nice to be with you. Thanks for the invite today. Doing
Well,
well.
great. Well, man, I tell you, we were talking just a little bit, but we had to fight technology. But you and I have connected, and I'm super glad to have you here. You've obviously, like we were talking, you've accomplished so many things, so many wonderful things. Just tell our viewers and later when this becomes a podcast about your background, so in case they don't know.
Sure. So I've been privileged to be a member of the Covey Company for nearly a quarter decade now. Of course, founded by Dr. Stephen R. Covey, the author of the seminal book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Can you believe that book is in its 30th year now, sold 40 million copies. And we've built a worldwide training, consulting, performance improvement company on helping organizations build great leaders at all levels. I was the chief marketing officer for 8 years. Prior to that, was on frontline sales and sales leadership. I'm actually from Orlando, Florida originally. I live here now in Salt Lake City, where we're headquartered. I've authored a few books, including my first book called Management Mess to Leadership Success. The book did extremely well. It was an authentic, sort of raw, relatable read on there's 30 challenges that everyone's going to face in their leadership career. I made a mess of most of them, and I'm trying to become more successful. And I shared my stories, and the book has taken off, and I've written a couple since then. And here I am now, landing on your program.
Hey, man, that's awesome. I mean, well, I just listened to some key buzzwords. You and I connected we talked about marketing, sales, leadership. That's my passion. And I love that. And you know what? I love the authentic way you said that, because we only become better leaders with each mishap by learning. If we're intelligent, we learn. And so, and secondly, I want to mention, I've used 7 Habits of Highly Effective People numerous times in speeches and taking organizations through things. So it's still a seminal book, like you said, of great leadership. So
yeah, your invoice for royalty is on its way.
fair enough. Yeah, I tell you, I got the old copy that's so dog-eared. People are like, "You read all this?" I'm like, about 80 times. I love it.
Hey, Ryan, we just reissued it for the 30th anniversary with his son, Sean Covey, who wrote the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens.
Oh.
So I'll make sure I get you a copy out signed by Sean this week.
Yeah, man, that'd be great. And
on the house.
I will share. Thanks. I appreciate that. I would love that. I didn't realize how many years I'd been, but that is just amazing.
Yeah.
And I hold you and your organization in high regard. Well, tell us a little bit, with being a top leader, Scott, let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room. We've all been faced with unprecedented, I guess that's the word we use, unprecedented opportunities, challenges, whatever. But there's a lot of people listening to this show going, well, it's easy for you guys to say you've written books and this and that.
Yeah.
What do you say to those people right now that are just staring around and going, what's next? I mean, that's what leaders have to talk about, right?
I'd say 3 or 4 things, right? We're all in the same boat, right? I lead a team of down from 30 over to 8 now, as I switched over from the chief marketing officer to be the thought leader. But I think there's a couple of ideas. One is check in, don't check on. In this virtual environment, people know when they're being checked on, right? Have a mindset, a belief system that you're checking in with people. I think it's a subtle but profound difference. And before you call someone up, before you're on a Zoom call, before you're on a one-on-one, remind yourself, put a Post-it note on your computer that says in, not on. And it will change the inflection of your voice. It'll change your questions. It'll change the dynamic. People don't need to be checked on, but they love to be checked in with. I'm surprised, Ryan, how many times I'm interviewed right now and leaders will say, well, I'm so concerned my team's not working and I'm worried about their productivity. I think that thought has never crossed my mind once. Because I, as a leader pre-pandemic, set very clear expectations. I clarified outcomes and I talked straight on what outcomes looked like, what performance looked like. So I'm not worried at the productivity that my people are delivering. I might be concerned about, do they have the tools they need? Do they have the confidence? Do they feel safe, sharing their frustrations and their fears? So as a leader, my job is to create the culture, to make it safe for them to get on a call with me and know that I'm also scared, right? I don't have all the answers. My kids are running around in the background at home. My kids are on Zoom. My bandwidth's not perfect. My wife and I's marriage isn't as good as it was 5 months ago. No one's is, right? There's a lot of pressure. I think it's incumbent on every leader to make sure you make it safe for your people to own their messes by owning your messes. It doesn't mean you confess all your fears. It doesn't mean you instill paranoia. You just say, yeah, the same thing's happening with me right now. So how do I make the best of it and get the work done, as is necessary? Make it safe for your people to own their messes by you being vulnerable enough, confident enough, and humble enough to share your own messes and how you're struggling to work through them as well.
I love that. I was mentioning I'm down to the wire beside dissertation with my leadership doctorate, and one of the emerging parts of
Congrats.
leadership is thank you, is authentic leadership, and it's really what you're talking about. Is you nor I have all the answers and can say here's the playbook of how 2021 is going to look. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. If the team is following and gelled, you don't need to be going, hey, I wonder if Susie's getting her 45 hours a weekend, and that's really what I would put in the management bucket. That's let's check it off to you're in an assembly line. So I love that. Let's check on check on those people, care about those people, share our stories. But their followership is so important as well, because we want them to follow, right?
You're absolutely right. I think an idea I would build on what you said is I was privileged to co-author a second book with Franklin Covey called "Everyone Deserves a Great Manager: The 6 Critical Practices for Leading a Team." And the first practice, Ryan, is develop a leader's mindset. Now, that's your belief system. And the old way was, as a leader, my job is to get it all done myself. If you want it done right, do it yourself. And the new mindset is my job is to get work done with and through other people. And when you realize that as a leader, your job is to get work done with and through others, everything changes, right? You slow down, you're more patient, you coach, you realize your necessity is to build capability in other people, to make it safe for them to struggle but not fail, make it safe for them to inquire but not feel embarrassed about it. That mindset shift, again, it might seem small, but it creates a culture virtually, which we're going to be in for, I think, an indeterminate period of time, that allows people to engage at levels that even they didn't realize they could.
Man, Scott, I want to make sure people, and we'll do it at the end, their contact info for your book. But, dude, it's spot on. If I could go back 15 years to tell my younger self, quit trying to do it all yourself, and if you take that time, and it's like teaching your kids to tie their shoes, teaching them to ride a bike. It takes time, but if you do it rightly, you build a house the right way, and you save so much more time in the end. Love that. Well, let me. What is you've been a chief on the chief marketing officer side, Scott, and you're in the leadership side. What's the favorite part about your job? I mean, what you love doing?
Oh, the people I work with. I mean, there's no question, right? I mean, I'm honored to be part of the Franklin Covey brand. I've been well compensated, but I think at the end of the day, it's the people that I've been privileged to be associated with: high character, high competent. There's an HR adage I'm going to debunk, and that is that people are an organization's most valuable asset. That's not true, Ryan. People are not a company's most valuable asset. It is the relationships between those people are what every company needs to value most. Because Ryan can have a Rhodes Scholar designation from Oxford, and Scott can be a black belt in Six Sigma. But if Ryan and Scott, as super geniuses, can't get along, they can't compliment, they can't forgive, they can't forgive each other for a future slight, then they're not an asset. They're a liability. So as a leader, you have to understand relationships are everything. Are you modeling what you want to see in your people? Are you apologizing? Are you pre-forgiving? Are you showing humility? Are you taking responsibility for your actions? Are you gossiping? As the leader, you model all the behavior that you'll end up seeing in your team members. It's a heavy mantle. It's why the premise of my book, Management Mess to Leadership Success, is that not everyone should be a leader. I don't believe that. But I'm a bit of a pariah in the industry because I don't think everyone should be a leader of people. Just like not everyone should be a commercial airline pilot or an anesthesiologist. Yes, we all have, leadership capability in us, lead a project, lead an initiative, but be very thoughtful. Is leadership the right role for you? I should not be an orthopedic surgeon. Could I be? Probably with 20 years of training and a couple of lawsuits and a lot of malpractice insurance, but it's not worth it for me. I think that organizations and people alike should be very thoughtful. Is leading people the right role for you? Because it's not for everybody.
Man, I love this. I mean, I know you and I are trying to get all this show in, and we got a limited amount of time. But you're spot on, Scott. I want to say something that if people miss that, and I always say people, is your most important asset. But then I go on, they tune out at the point about interconnectivity, because I love your example, Six Sigma and whatever you said the other one was,
Rhodes
because
Scholar,
Rose
right?
Scholar. Because I remember early in my career, I had a guy. We were both VPs of whatever. The problem is, we were both trying to be the top dog with our school of thought. And you know what? We were both very talented, but it didn't work. It did not work. They were both individually talented leaders, but had two camps, and we couldn't get on the same page. No matter, and looking back, it was foolish, And again, wisdom is an important thing. So, well, let's do this real quick, because I want to make sure people can connect with you through social, through email, through phone, whatever. What's the best way, Scott, people can connect with you? Get books, whatever you want to tell them.
Yeah, well, probably to follow me on LinkedIn. Love to have you connect with me on LinkedIn. I post pretty prolifically daily. You also can visit franklincovey.com, a treasure trove of resources, webinars, podcasts, videos. I'm privileged to host for the company a podcast weekly called Franklin Covey's On Leadership with Scott Miller, where we host world-renowned thought leaders, CEOs, best-selling authors every week. It's video and audio. You can subscribe at franklincovey.com. It is now the world's largest weekly leadership podcast in the world by distribution and subscription. And so it's kind of hard not to find me these days, as my wife says. And that's not a compliment. She's not paying me.
No. I had a friend of mine on this show not too long ago. She used the term, I like this. She says, I'm very Googleable.
Yes, same with me.
Yeah. It's a great brand. And man, I tell you, I know we could talk forever, and we got a couple of closing thoughts. I want right now, we're going to be, in a time, who knows what's going to be going on, but, leadership is more paramount in whatever we record this in August 2020 than I think it's been ever. And leadership's always important, but it's a big term and people always want to break it down. But as I said earlier, people can be great followers too. You have to have followers to have leaders. And that's not a sign of weakness. Followers can be, we all got to work together to accomplish what we're going to do, right? And I'm going to give you the final words on what you want to say to the people out there that are listening right now, that are angry, frustrated, confused, lonely, depressed, to inspire them a little bit.
What is, I'd say, stop blaming your leader. I mean, leaders are people too, right? A lot of leaders might have been promoted over their level of competence. So I would say work on yourself, right? Use your proactive muscle. Dr. Covey's book, The 7 Habits, habit 1 was be proactive. A lot of people confuse that with taking initiative, when in fact, proactive people are people that take responsibility for their own results, for their own behaviors. They don't look outward, they look inward. They look very deliberately on how can I choose my response more deliberately to outside stimulus coming at me. Perhaps my leader's impatience or my leader's frustration. That proactive people are very deliberate around putting a space between their response to any outside situation. And they carry their own weather. Metaphorically, they don't let other people control their moods and emotions. They respond based on their values. So I would put a lot of responsibility on the listener. Don't take responsibility for your boss's incompetence or your boss's personality or his or her low values. Be a light, not a judge. Be a model, not a critic. Dr. Covey talked a lot about a leader's job is to communicate to other people so clearly their worth and potential that they become to see it and believe it in themselves. That's a leader's job.
I love it. And I want to say one thing I remember from the book, reading so many times, responsible. I think it says response-able, able to choose your own response.
Well
remember
said.
that? Look, you see that?
Look at you, savant. You're a savant. You know that stuff.
Man, I got a lot of stuff in the old noggin.
Well, Dr. Ryan, you're on your way, man. I'm humble in your presence. You're close.
Hey, man, not yet, but I'm working at it. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get across the finish line, but I don't want to say anything too fast. But hey, man, Scott, it's awesome to have you on the show. We're going to get some show links for your other show. People can tune in. We're going to be getting this out. Be getting this out on LinkedIn. Be getting a copy to you. But I just want to thank you for your great leadership, inspiring me today. Leaders fire up leaders, man. It's important.
Ryan, it's my honor, man. Stay safe. Wear a mask.
Vote. You got it, Scott. Thank you so much. And folks, you've been listening to another Connections with Ryan Sauers. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes. See you, everybody.